All right, guys. Happy Friday. Happy Veterans Day, 2022. If anybody is watching who is a veteran, thank you for your service. And so today, this is my live stream number 6. And that's why the number on the thumbnail. And today, I'm happy, I'm honored, and of having my guest number, obviously number 6, and I'm
Mhm.
talking about the Viking Samurai. Viking Samurai. Um, I forgot to say a few minutes ago. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, thanks for having me on here, man.
Thank you for accepting. I mean, I feel like I feel like I've been like I know you because I found you a few years ago actually, and it's funny because I found you through the algorithm on YouTube. I
Okay.
think because I remember I was watching one of those YouTube videos of either Stallone or Van Damme, and then like a day later. One of your videos. I don't remember which one because I have seen a lot of them, or your videos.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I pumped
It-
out over 500, man.
but what I do remember is it was when you had about 4,000 subscribers. So that's
Oh,
probably
wow.
about 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember I saw that, and then I didn't subscribe right away. What I did, I kept watching
Mhm.
more of your videos a few days later, and then I followed you first on Instagram, which
Okay.
you didn't have a lot of content on Instagram
Not
yet.
really, not initially.
At least, yeah, now you got more. And so I subscribe you on Instagram first, and then you follow me back, and then shortly after, as I was watching still your videos, then I subscribed, and I've been a subscriber, and I've been, leaving comments
Yeah, I
on
see
your
your comments
videos,
all the time, man. Yeah. Thank you. Can't help.
and and now it's like again, congrats. I mean, yeah, when I subscribed to you, you had 4,000 subscribers, and just a
Mhm.
few days later, you just reached 80,000, dude. 80,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
That's
that's crazy,
unbelievable.
dude. That is a crazy milestone because the funny thing is it took me like forever to get 50, right? Like 50 is a big
Uh-huh.
milestone, but when I say it took forever, like I meant when I got to like 48, 49, it was
Hmm.
like really slow, man. Whereas maybe adding like 10 subs a day, it's like, dude, it's gonna take forever to get to 50. And then like I hit that 50, and then all of a sudden the channel like really exploded. I hit that 50 not even that long ago. Now I just hit 80 yesterday.
Hmm.
So now this whole goal and dream of getting to that 100 is like it feels close, man. Like it feels
It's
really close
close.
because I went from 50 to 80 so quick. I literally went from 50 to 80 quicker than I went from like 48 to 50.
Yeah.
Like
It's
it's
funny.
insane how YouTube works, right? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember it was, I don't, because I follow you like I said, on Instagram and on YouTube on the community or whatever, in the community tab. And I remember you posted either in one of those two, a photo of the 50,000 milestone, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, cool, I liked it or whatever. And then not that long after, another one like 70,000. I'm like, oh wait, okay, oh cool.
Like,
And
what the
then
hell
just
happened
last
here?
week, a few days ago, 80,000. I'm like, oh man, another one. that
Yeah,
was
no,
too,
that's coming
that
up,
was too
man.
fast.
Like,
That was too soon. That's good. That's pretty good. And you've been what, 3 4 years maybe?
yeah, basically, I started September of 2019. So, yeah, just over 3 years, man. And I'll say the first 9 months, I didn't get any views, like nothing, nothing. And I was posting consistently because I'll see people who do channels, they'll post like videos for like 3, 4 months and then they'll quit because they're not getting any views. So it is kind of
Yeah.
frustrating. It's almost like, what am I making these videos for? Nobody's even watching them. But
Oh
I'm
yeah.
telling you, man, you just got to be consistent and you'll hit that video. There'll be a specific one. A lot of people talk about this. All of a sudden, there'll be a video that just like the algorithm picks up. And ideally, you have other videos you've done before that the algorithm never picked up, but then YouTube will start putting them out in front of people. So the whole goal is to just try to constantly be consistent and try to do better and better content. So when you do finally have a video that hits, people like will explore your older content. So hopefully you already have like a backlog of stuff. So for me, it was a Mike Tyson video, man, because he was
Okay.
making that comeback in like 2020 and he was like crazy hitting those pads. And I was just talking about, oh, how he was so amazing back in the day and all this other stuff. I'm so excited about the comeback. it was like a really nice piece. And the algorithm, I think the timing and just people wanting to check in on like what Mike Tyson's doing, in 2020, it just really blew up. And I was getting like hundreds of thousands of views. I think that video almost got like 1 million views now, but my subs went from like, I don't know, like 100 to like a couple thousand because of that video. And then they started putting out, I guess YouTube started throwing out my other content, like, because I did a video on like Jeff Speakman, Philip Bree, Brandon Lee, Mark Dacascos, etc.
I've seen
And
all of
then
them.
people started liking those, and then they've seen some of my like older Stallone videos and Seagal videos, and that just really got the ball rolling, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's how it happens. I don't know. It's like the algorithm is weird. Like it pushes some videos. I don't know how they get chosen. I guess popularity or likes or comments, amount of comments. I don't know, but yeah, you're right. I mean, as long as the content, you gotta keep improving the content, and then people will subscribe. But yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, for a lot of us. But I'm doing it for fun, and otherwise, I would have quit, dude. I would have quit.
That's the other thing with YouTube, man. You have to do it for fun. You can't do it just assuming, hey, I'm going to make money someday. It's like, no. In fact, the first year, the first 2 years, etc., you're not going to make anything. You really won't, right? Just to get monetized, you need like 1,000 subs, 4,000 hours of watch time, and then maybe you'll make like $12. So don't go into YouTube, anybody listening, to try to make money. Now, it could eventually lead to possibly making money, but really the only people that stick with it is because they're passionate about what they talk about. So when I was saying I was putting out videos for 9 months, I wasn't necessarily trying to make money. I would just think, oh, that'd be cool if I could actually monetize this someday. But that wasn't like the objective. It was more like I wanted to do something creative, and I enjoy the stuff I'm talking about. So that's the only reason I stuck with it. Otherwise I would have I'm not going to spend all my extra time doing this for nothing.
Oh, I hear you, man. I hear you. Yeah, I mean, and it's good because then you started getting some sponsors, right? I remember the very
I
first
got a
video
couple
you
of
did.
those. So those come over time, which is cool, and that all helps, man. Because even now with like 80,000 subs, literally, guys, if I get a decent amount of views, right? Like on some of the videos, and if I break down the math, the amount of time it takes to put these videos together, do all the editing, do the research, do a lot of interviews, etc. It's like I am making way less than minimum wage, even with 80,000 subs. So it's like, I mean, some people can make a ridiculous amount on YouTube, but again, you don't want to go into it for the money, because even when you're getting close to 100,000 subs, you make more money at McDonald's. Honestly, you would.
No, definitely. Yeah, I've been listening. Like I listen to other people on YouTube, and they were like, they're like, you don't make money on YouTube until like you gotta get like a lot of views, and sponsors help. But like to do it full time it takes time, and it takes a lot of effort. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm doing it for fun, and you're doing it for fun too. So that's, I mean, nothing wrong with that. I mean, a little extra, whatever amount you get, that's
yeah. And for me, man, the big win is the networking. Like, look at the guys I've been able to talk to. Like, I had Mark Dacascos on that channel. I had writer-director Sheldon Lettich. I had Chris Van Damme. Benny the Jet Urquidez. Like, there's so many cool people that I get to pick their brain, and I talk to them because I appreciate what they've done in their work, and I'm just like a fan of that work, able to ask questions directly. And that's why a lot of people actually like the videos, because you're like, dude, these are the questions I wanted to ask these people, So it's kind of cool.
I have seen, I'm not going to say that I have watched every single of your videos, but I have seen most of them. I have seen a lot of them. And for the most part, every video that I watch, every video of yours, it has a comment. If I have something to say, I leave a comment. But if I don't, I don't say, like, I don't comment if I don't have anything positive.
Hit the thumbs up minimum, though. Make sure you always hit that thumbs up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But
help a brother out, man.
But I have seen, yes, absolutely. But I have seen a lot of them. I haven't watched yesterday's yet, like the one with about Cyborg.
Oh, you're gonna like that. All about, dude, like crazy behind this stuff with Cyborg that Sheldon Lettich talks about. Obviously, you guys have to buy this book, man. Like, the stories he's gotten here is crazy, because he was a part of that whole world, obviously, but a lot more than people realize, because he's got his name on the credits to a lot of films, but he's worked on a lot more stuff than people realize, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and I have really enjoyed, like, obviously, those interviews, like you said, with Sheldon Lettish, right? Lettish,
Mhm.
Lettish, yeah. And yeah, Sensei Benny. I mean, come on, I would like to meet him eventually. Marta
Dude, you know what's
Cascos.
so cool about that, man?
Mhm.
Like, my Kenpo instructor 20 years ago used to always talk about Benny the Jet. I never thought I would end up like talking to him, and obviously YouTube wasn't even a thing back then, but it's so cool because even talking to Benny, I can remember stuff my Kenpo instructor from 20 years ago told me about him. And it's like, oh, cool. I'm talking to this guy now, like 20 years later, after hearing
Uh,
these stories from my Kenpo instructor who
that,
actually watched some of his fights back in the day.
oh wow, yeah, I would love to meet Sensei Benny. What it would be even better is I would love to, like, go to his gym. It's in California, right? He's based in
Oh
California.
yeah, yeah. I think he's still got the Jet Center out there in the San Fernando Valley. I think. I'm not sure.
Uh
Like I
huh.
know that was around the whole time in the 80s, and Van Damme used to train there. And Jeff Langton, who played Sonny and Lionheart, I talked to that dude on the phone all the time. Like we've become friends. Like isn't that
Good.
crazy? Through the channel, I've literally
Yeah.
become friends with some of these guys. And he'll tell me stories about Frank Dukes or Benny the Jet or obviously Van Damme, all kinds of
Hmm.
stuff. It's like I got a direct link into this world that we grew up watching all these movies, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things that I have learned, earn on YouTube. Like, I don't earn money, but I have earned, like friendships, like
Mhm.
online friendships, like yours and other YouTubers, and that I get to, like, interact. And now that I started this live streaming, which I like, this one is, I think it's pretty cool because we can, see each other. Uh, some of them, like you are, well, you're a little far, no, not too far from here, I think, but like other people, like I was telling you, like my buddy, like over there outside of Russia. I got another buddies like in Florida, California, like in different parts or whatever. So, I like that community. Nice, cool people that they like to create, content. They like to watch movies like myself, and other ones like, bodybuilding, like you, and natural bodybuilding. I gotta say
Of
that on
course,
that.
man. We gotta stay
Yeah,
healthy.
not forever. And movies, and like, of course, one of the things that I click with you, I was telling my wife this morning, is like you love Van Damme, you
Mhm.
know,
Oh
and
yeah.
I have friends of mine that they like Van Damme, or they're, sympathetic, but I haven't met anybody who loves Van Damme as much like I do, and until I met you. So
Yeah,
that's what I
it's
was telling
funny,
my
man.
wife.
It's funny. And part of the reason also is because at least specifically for me is when I came across him in the movies, it was like a very pivotal part of my life, like training the martial arts. And he was the guy that really inspired the most because MMA wasn't really a thing. Like if you wanted to get into martial arts, you either read Black Belt magazine or you watched martial art movies if you wanted to see martial arts perform, right? I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
granted, Benny the Jet and Don Wilson, those guys were doing kickboxing matches, but it's not like you could ever really watch them on TV. Like they just weren't that popular, man. So the only exposure we got to these guys, and Benny, of course, would do movies, and Don Wilson would do movies, and in my opinion, Van Damme and Steven Skull like did the best ones. They were working with the bigger studios. They had the better writers, the better directors, better cinematographers, better everything.
Hmm.
So and the thing is, like these were just great performers. So to watch those movies, the inspiration back in the 90s was crazy. So I was growing up and that motivated me so much. I would watch Kickboxer or Lionheart, Bloodsport literally every day. Like not the whole movie, but I would put
Uh-huh.
it in to watch certain parts when I would just stretch at home before I would go to like Taekwondo, for example.
Uh-huh.
So it's
Getting
just,
inspired.
and I'll tell you more about one of these movies specifically, which is why it's my favorite.
Okay.
But circling back to what you said about the community and YouTube, what's interesting? And I do call it a brotherhood. The guys that really love these movies, like the Van Damme movies, the Stallone movies, Arnold, Seagal, etc. The crazy thing about YouTube is the global reach. You were mentioning you talking to these guys like overseas. So, for example, about 2 months ago when I was in Italy, two people on separate occasions actually recognized me from the channel. It's like very surreal. It's
Really?
like, dude, I'm just
Wow.
making YouTube videos. I'm not like in on TV or in movies or anything. But like people love this stuff. They're
Wow.
like,
That's
hey, the
awesome.
Viking Samurai guy. I'm like, oh, hey, what's up, man? So it's kind of surreal, It's like in Italy of all places. Like
Mm.
I don't have like a big presence in Italy for one. If I look at my like
And
who
the
watches the channel,
analytics. Yeah.
it's yeah, the analytics. It's 50% in the US, which makes sense. It's maybe like 13% in the UK, which makes sense because, you know, they speak English.
Yeah.
But then elsewhere, you know, maybe 2% of the audience is from Italy. But to have two guys recognize me there was crazy, man. It's pretty cool. But I just have to laugh at the whole thing, you know?
No, dude, that's funny, but it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
So you were like, you went to Venice, right? Were you in Venice, I believe?
Yeah,
I saw
so
the
I
pictures
went.
in Venice.
Well, I went to first. We went to Rome, and
Uh-huh.
then we went to Venice. We took the high speed train, which man, those are freaking awesome. I don't know why. Well, actually, I do kind of know why they don't have them in the U.S., but that's a whole other discussion. They should have them in the U.S. because they're great, but whatever.
All right, we have a comment here from Blacktastic Media. What up, fellas? Hey, Blacktastic, how you doing, brother?
Hey, what's up, man?
He's one of my buddies that I met through YouTube. I had him
Cool.
on my last live stream. He's a movie director and writes, and he has
Oh, nice.
made several movies. He likes horror, and I believe he's a fan of Bruce Lee. Like I think back in the day, he grew up like watching the old kung fu movies or whatever. So yeah,
Interesting.
Blacktastic, if you're still watching, dude, thank you for being here. And I was gonna say, so guys, what if you're watching live or after the fact? Today we don't have like an agenda. Viking Samurai and I today. Well, the only thing is the topic that we have is gonna be Van Damme. We're gonna be talking about our favorite Van Damme movie. And other than that, feel free to drop in the comments either a question or or a comment about a movie. It also has to be Van Damme. It can be uh, 80s or 90s action movie. I don't know, anything you gotta say in the comments or questions. Just drop it down. And and before we start with our um, live streaming, I told Viking Samurai I had a few personal questions that he hasn't addressed in his channel, and before I do that, because before I forget, Viking Samurai, you wanna tell us? Well, I already know, but you wanna tell us what your channel is about?
Oh yeah, the channel basically. Well, I usually just say the stuff in the background, but I'm you know, fixing up the office. Usually I just got all these movies in the background. I cover the
Oh
80s
yeah,
and 90s, mostly like action and martial arts films, a little bit of fitness content, a little bit of martial arts content, because I've been involved in that world myself since like the mid 90s. And a big reason is because these movies inspired me. So, but yeah, I mean, if you guys are fans of like Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, which I will always defend, by the way, a lot of people give him crap, right? And then, you
I
know,
know.
Sylvester Stallone, Arnold. I gotta put out a lot more Arnold content, but I got so much amazing Van Damme and Stallone content, especially because I've gotten people involved in that world, man, who made like these movies like Sheldon Lettich and you know all kinds of cool behind the scenes stuff. So if you're into that stuff, I mean, you would absolutely love the channel, and you could be part of the Brotherhood if you join.
That's right. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna put Viking Samurai's channel. I want to put a link down in the box on the description of the video below. So make sure that you click and you subscribe to his channel. And yeah, so I had a few questions, Viking Samurai, and I mean, I could ask many questions, and I could just because this is more a conversation, so I could keep talking about Italy, because I'm curious about that, and I know like and
Greatest
I
pizza on the planet. Greatest
dude,
pizza on the planet, man. I was
I
eating
love pizza.
pizza like 3 times a day. That was heaven, man. And I let
And
myself go, dude, because I work out all the time and eat pretty clean. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Italy. I'm for once in my life, I'm not gonna worry about the gym. That was literally the longest time I've ever took from not working out. About like 10 days since 94. I've never taken like a week off. Like literally,
like a
that's
week,
how crazy and disciplined I am about it. So
dude.
I walked a lot, so I didn't get like
Yeah.
crazy, you know, out of shape because we walked, my wife and I, for like we literally walked the entire city of Rome. I'm not lying, the entire city of Venice. Like we walked like beyond a full time job, like I don't know, 12, 14 hours a day, walking everywhere, traversing everything on foot, and that's really how you get to explore the city, man. You'll miss so much good stuff if you're just, you know, taking one of the taxis, or I guess in Venice a boat taxi. But
Yeah.
yeah, you just, explore every nook and cranny, man. It was quite interesting.
And it's funny that you mentioned that about the pizza. Well, first of all, I love pizza. I could eat pizza every day. But I had a coworker, and he went to Italy a few years ago. And when he came back, he told me that the pizza over there was way superior, like better than ours. And he
Hmm.
said like the ingredients were like fresh, like all the
Oh yeah.
vegetable or the pizza, they were like fresh tomatoes. Like it was nothing like from the store. It was like everything fresh. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh
and
my
of course, like, you can't assume every pizza in Italy is going to be great. Like, in general, on average, the pizza's a lot better, but they do
Mhm,
have those specific spots. I mean, I remember one particular in Venice. I don't know what it was, but I will literally say that is probably the best pizza in the entire world. Like, that specific restaurant, because of all the pizza I ate in Italy, throughout Rome and Venice and multiple times a day, there was
mhm.
specifically one restaurant that stuck out, and you're just like, oh man, like I don't know what they did to this thing, man. I don't think I'm ever gonna have pizza like that again.
Unless you go back.
Yeah, unless I go back. But the problem is I don't even remember which restaurant it was. Yeah, I don't
Uh-huh.
even remember, dude. It was the one off of Venice where you would take this boat taxi to like an island off of Venice in Murano, I think, because they have all this like glass art that they make there. And there
Uh-huh.
was actually a restaurant off this island where they do all this cool fancy glass stuff. Was over
Or
there.
like
So
they
I,
blow
I could
the
probably find it again if I go back.
yeah. And yeah, I remember. I think you posted a photo on Instagram of the pizza or something. I remember
Yeah, I
seeing a
think I
photo.
did post
Yeah,
that photo, man. I
yeah,
didn't name the
yeah.
restaurant, but like I did post that photo, and I did a whole video. Like every once in a while, guys, I'll do random videos on my channel. And I chronicled that whole trip to Italy, talking about like I think 7 things that'll shock you about Italy or something like that. And yeah, I did have a picture of that pizza, man.
And also, I do know you because you were saying that usually all the DVDs are behind you, but
Mhm.
right now you're gonna make a video about your collection, so that's why you are
Oh,
putting
dude,
that.
like, it's gonna be more than one video. I literally recorded like 3 hours of footage going over all this stuff. Like, here's one, for example, Red Belt, Blind Fury. Look at all this stuff. Fighting with Channing Tatum. Oh, funny
I
enough,
I
this
remember
was
seeing
kind
that
of
one.
like,
Yeah.
okay, so they did Hard Times with Charles Bronson, and then they did Lionheart, which was kind of like, I wouldn't say exactly a remake, but they basically kind of recreated that. And then this is what they recreated Universal after Lionheart. They did Fighting with Channing Tatum. Most people don't know about that movie. But yeah, I talked briefly about all these. But yeah, it took me over 3 hours, man, and I'm still editing all those videos. And I'm not going to dump a 3 hour video on people. So I got to break it up to like half-hour segments or something, man.
I know, dude. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Oh, and another question is about your cat, which actually there are two cats, and I thought it was
Yeah, there's
one.
a couple of them, man.
Yeah, and yeah, so I was thinking it was Jean Pierre, but it's actually Jean Pierre and Ollie,
This
right?
one's Ollie.
That's Ollie.
Oliver.
Okay,
Ollie Patch. Look at him. He's a good looking cat, man.
dude, I love his eyes.
Yeah, he is a good looking cat. He's a nice cat too.
What kind of are those sphinx or what is it
Yeah,
pronounced?
it's a sphinx. It's a
Oh,
Canadian
sphinx.
sphinx because they have two different kind of sphinxes. They got the Russian sphinx, which they got really weird looking faces, and then they
Uh-huh.
got the Canadian sphinxes.
Oh, so I didn't know that. So two kinds of sphinx, like
Yeah.
Canadian and Russian.
Hmm.
Okay, all right. And now, I like that kind of cats. I mean, I'm not like a cat guy. I'm more of a dog person. But we cannot have dogs here, so we have two cats. They're
Oh, you do?
downstairs.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but one of them is from a shelter, and the other one is kind of a nice one. The other one is half Mancoon and half Himalayan,
Oh, nice.
and both are females. And the younger one, that's a nicer cat. Like she like she likes to be like grab her and she likes to cuddle and do this thing. The other one, the one from the shelter, even though we got her as a kitty, she can be mean at times. I mean, not too bad, but not like as cute as the other one.
Yeah.
But I do like those Sphinx cats, and but I'm the only one in this house who likes those cats, so I'm outnumbered.
People think they're weird, man. I will say they look better in person than pictures. Now, sometimes they
Okay.
look really cool in pictures, but sometimes they look angry and all wrinkled, and people want them to like look bizarre. I think the way they photograph them, but they're like the sweetest cats though. If you ever read about them, they're literally like a cross between a cat, a dog, and a monkey. Like they're super playful, super intelligent, and anytime I have like visitors, people are like fascinated. They want to touch them. They're like, "Well, can I touch them? What do they feel like?" Kind of feels like a warm suede water bottle, basically. But people are fascinated just how they look, man.
Yeah, and I was telling my kids, I'm like, you can actually dress them up and get suits. And I was reading, so that this is one of my questions. Are those like high maintenance compared to other kinds of cats or
In
no?
a way, man, because they don't have
Uh-huh.
fur, so you do got to clean their ears a lot. You got to clean their eyes all the time. You got to
Uh-huh.
wash them like once a month to get their natural oils off of them. So yeah, they're
Oh, okay,
definitely
okay.
more. I wouldn't really say like high maintenance. They're more maintenance than a normal cat, but nothing like a dog.
Uh-huh.
Like dogs are high maintenance, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I haven't had a dog here in the States, but I know here they're more people take care more care of dogs here in the States, but I
Well, where
haven't
are you
had one
from,
here.
man? Like, where did you have a dog?
I had it in Mexico. I grew up in
Oh, you
Mexico.
okay, Mexico?
Yeah, I had one dog down there. No, I had two dogs, and then I moved here. And then my parents, they had, after I moved, they had another dog, but I wasn't there when that happened. Um, but yeah, so I grew up more like with dogs. But down there, I mean, dogs like they're they're creatures. They're creatures for the outside. Outdoor dogs.
Yeah,
People
sure,
put them on
sure.
the roofs. On top of the
Wow,
roofs.
that's funny.
And I never did that to my dogs. I had him like in the back, and I would walk him, whenever I could. But here in the States, you walk the dogs every day, several times a day.
Oh yeah,
It's
sure. They
it's
got
another
good
thing.
lives here, man.
Yeah. So yeah. So when you say they're high maintenance dogs, yeah, yeah, definitely they're high maintenance. And I would
Mhm.
love one. I would love one here. Um, I would. I mean, I wouldn't
Wait, you
wanna.
said you're not allowed to have a dog where you're at?
Well, like we renting, so we're not allowed to have dogs. But
Oh, really? Oh, that
yeah,
sucks.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I mean, maybe when we own a house, I can get a dog. I would like,
Yeah, sure.
but I mean, there's only like three kinds of dogs that I would like to get. So it's not like every dog that I love. It's
Well, what we gotta know the three dogs. What dogs?
oh, you got dogs
No,
too.
what dogs would you want? Like
Oh yeah,
what
yeah.
three?
I like the Rottweiler.
Okay.
Um, I like the Boxer.
Oh yeah, boxers are cool, man.
Boxer, but I want them with no tail and with the ears clipped.
Very
And
specific.
and I would like the other choice that I would like is that dog. I think it's an English pit bull. I don't know. It's like the dog from Target, from the store Target.
Oh yeah, sure. That's a cool
That one.
dog, man. That's a cool
I
dog.
forgot. I
I would
forgot what.
want I would want like a Doberman
Oh,
pinscher.
those are scary looking. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or a boxer, like you said, and then I guess my third one would be like a Belgian Shepherd.
I don't know what those
It's kind of
look
like a
like.
smaller than a German Shepherd, but
Okay,
they're
okay, okay.
so intelligent, and I think they sniff out bombs. I think like the police and different governments use them because they're very like smart, right? You could train them,
Uh-huh.
and they're very protective. You know what's funny? Like one of my dentists actually had one, and he had a son too. But the reason I bring this up is that he loved that dog. He was so proud of that dog and so
Mhm.
disappointed with his son. So whenever I would get my cleaning, he would talk about his son for like 3 minutes, and then like the rest of the hour, he would just glow and talk about how amazing that dog was. And so that always stuck with me.
Priorities,
I'm like, I should get a Belgian Shepherd.
priorities of the dead. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up. Yeah, I never heard about that kind. Okay, yeah, that's cool. So yeah, I mean, maybe one day when we have a house, maybe I can get a dog.
You
But
should,
yeah, I
man.
mean,
Definitely.
I know, you gotta walk them and pick up after their stuff, and
Mhm.
but that's how it is. But so oh yeah, so obviously I asked you when I invited you to come, and again, thank you for accepting. I asked you to. Before I forget, I'm sorry.
Mm.
This is one of the beauties about being live, and I don't have a script, so because this is a conversation.
Yeah,
But
it's cooler like this, man.
yeah,
You know, it's natural.
eh,
Just hanging out,
ex-
man. And if anybody wants to throw questions our way, that's cool too. You know, they
exactly.
can
Yeah,
hang out with us.
exactly. And I don't know, maybe a few months ago, I dropped a video, and the title of the video was "Why I Love Van Damme," right? And pretty much I just said my reasons, how why I love Van Damme, uh, when that happened, how old I was, more or less, the first time I watched a movie, why I watched a movie, like what were the like the story behind how I became a fan. So my question for you, even though this is not an interview, but I wanted to ask you, like, how old were you, if you remember, when you encounter, so to speak, Van Damme? Was it a movie? Was it a maybe a poster you saw? Was it like a family member who introduced you to one of his movies? Was it in the theater? Was it VHS or
You
something
know,
like
it's
that?
interesting. That's a really good question, and I'll try to answer as best I can because, like, my first exposure was in the '80s, the mid to late '80s. I know I was really young, and I see No Retreat, No Surrender, but I didn't know who Van Damme was. Like, what I
Hmm.
remember most from that movie was Kurt McKinney doing that backflip at the end and kicking Van Damme, and then also the ghost of Bruce Lee. It wouldn't be later until I was a big fan of Van Damme where I would revisit that and realize, wait, the bad guy in that movie's Van Damme? That's amazing. And now that's the only reason I watched that movie is the beginning when
Uh-huh.
Van Damme beats up the guys at the karate school, and then the end when he fights the guys in the kickboxing ring.
Yeah.
And then after that, Bloodsport I watched for the first time at a friend's house, but I was like maybe 10 years old. So again, I wasn't as into Van Damme at that time. I just thought, oh, hey, this is a really cool movie. And that's the amazing thing about Bloodsport, even martial art movies back in the day.
Hmm.
Nowadays, basically, nobody's going to watch a martial art movie, at least the stuff they make today, unless you're specifically a martial arts fan. Back then, those
Yeah.
movies had mass appeal. Like, I
Hmm.
wasn't even into martial arts. I mean, I think every kid in general, they want to be tough and they want to be able to kick ass. So it kind of resonates with them. Just action movies in general and these karate movies. It's like, oh, I want to be like
Yeah.
this guy, especially when you're dealing with bullies at school. It's like, dude, if I could jump up and kick this guy in the head, I'd be so cool. You know, so it resonates with us, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the thing is, in general, like I wasn't into martial arts. I wasn't like a fan of martial arts. I liked movies, and Bloodsport to me was just a cool movie, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, you know, it's interesting because there's nothing like specific I remember. I just remember when I was really getting hardcore in the taekwondo training, and that
Hmm.
was about when I was like 13, 14. I was just renting any martial arts movie I could find at the video store. A lot of them were like Billy Blank's movies, like Talons of the Eagle, Showdown,
Yeah.
Back in Action. You know, he worked with Jalal Murray a lot, and then you know, obviously, I say Best of the Best was a big
Yeah.
inspiration. You know, and there were a lot of King of the Kickboxers, which I'm not really a fan of now, and I did a reaction video to that, but basically, I would rent every martial arts movie I could get my hands on, man. And Van Damme, his movies and then the guy himself was the one that impressed me the most. So
Hmm.
that's when I really, became a huge fan. And I would just keep rewatching those. Like I said, I would put Bloodsport in, Double Impact in, Lionheart in, literally like every day. Not watching the whole movie, but just like
Hmm.
let me while I'm stretching to try
Yeah.
to do the splits because I need that in Taekwondo someday. I would watch the kickboxing training sequences or in the final fight, and then Bloodsport. Bloodsport, you could just throw in and just play from the beginning because that whole movie is just centered around the tournament, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a really, really rewatchable film. But basically, there's not a specific moment. It just transitioned into me getting hardcore into the martial arts and him being the guy that I thought he did it the best, and he had the best movies. So that's where I just kind of gravitated towards mainly watching his. Like the other movies I would watch like once. His I
Hmm.
would watch multiple times during the week, you know?
Because they inspire you, like if you want to stretch, you want to be watching, him stretching during the
Mhm.
training montage. I mean, they were
Exactly.
just, inspiring.
Exactly. And they had the great music score too, which
Oh
helps.
yeah, oh yeah.
You know, like
Even now, like it's still like the kickboxing the training montage.
yeah,
I still love that. Um,
it's they can't recreate that. Like they had a Kickboxer reboot, right? Like in
yeah, oh yeah.
2016. It's
Yep,
just different, man. And I came into it like with an open mind, like, oh, cool. I'm interested because Van Damme himself is in it, but now he's
yeah,
playing the mentor guy, right?
yeah, yeah.
It just didn't really work for me, man. Like it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't magical in any way.
Oh, not at all. No, the first one was a little better than the second one. They got different directors too.
Mm,
Uh, and I forgot the name of the director, but I think that the second movie, I think is a Retaliation. Well, the second movie,
yeah.
the guy he's a producer, but I think it was his first time directing, and
Mm.
it just didn't. It didn't. I own it. I ended up buying both
Did you?
DVDs,
Okay.
but yeah, they couldn't recreate. They
No, they
can't.
couldn't,
No,
man.
no.
And they're still trying to do the third one, by the way.
Oh, a third
Yeah, it's still
kickboxer.
up on IMDb. Like they're still trying to do it. Like I don't know what they're waiting for, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, who knows?
Yeah. So yeah, and yeah. So like every time when I ask my son, like when we're downstairs, usually on Sundays because it's like my day off. I like him, to hit the pads and kick the pads.
Mhm.
I always play, I always play kickboxing in the background, and sometimes he's like, "No, Daddy, I play Bloodsport." And, okay, cool, I don't mind. Or there's some, but we started with No Retreat, No Surrender,
Nice.
and I remember because he's kind of new in martial arts. He's been there for about a little over a year.
Mhm.
So, but when he was 4 or 5, he was still flexible because he was pretty young. So he
Yeah, sure.
splits. He was doing the splits, and I introduced the movie No Retreat, No Surrender, and he would watch it and he would stretch or whatever. And I think what he was looking at, what he was watching, because in the movie when they start, they in the dojo training, and then Van Damme shows up and breaks the sensei's leg or
Yeah,
whatever.
sure.
And then I was like, hey, Jean-Claude, I want you to do martial arts. He's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to go. And during COVID in 2020, December 2020, I was like, hey, I'm gonna take you to a. I'm gonna take you one of these days. I'm gonna take you to a dojo so you
Mhm.
can see and try. He's like, no. And then one day, and like I said, in December 2020, I said, hey, we're gonna go for a ride. He's like, where? I like, don't worry about it. We're gonna go for a ride. So we went, and we went to this dojo that I had already in mind, and he was very quiet. He had the mask, everybody was wearing masks, so
Yeah,
he had
sure.
the mask, and he was like what 6 or 7. He was like 6, yeah, 6 years old. And I'm like, hey, we're just gonna look, and then one of the senses, he's like, hey, you wanna try? You can try. I mean, he's like, right now we're not hitting pad, we're just working out because we can
Mhm.
do because COVID. And I'm like, you wanna try? He's like, he wouldn't talk. He was like, so we just sat there the entire hour, and then okay, thank you guys, so, we'll be back. And then we didn't go back until because I was waiting to COVID to kind of go a little less, and we went like the next 6 months later, and
Mhm.
he's been there since then, and
Nice.
yeah, he's not taking karate because he's not a karate school. Maybe eventually I can take him to a karate place, but he's doing MMA and Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Oh, that's nice. That's
And
good.
so that's a good combo. I mean, because I
Yeah,
want him
sure.
to, I want him to learn some ground, some
Mhm.
ground game. But eventually, because I mean, I don't want to say that I am a kicker because I mean, I love to kick, but I'm not a kicker. But I want him to be a kicker. So I
Oh,
think
sure. I mean, well, his name's Jean-Claude.
that's
You
why
kind of have
that's why
to.
I'm like, with that name, you better know how to kick.
Yeah, but live up to your name, son.
So I mean, eventually, I know another a karate sensei who runs another dojo. I met him several years ago. So maybe eventually, when he's older, maybe I can switch him there, or try both places. But because I would like him to get some traditional, the katas and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Because in this place, it's not a McDojo where he goes. It's a legitimate place, but
Yeah,
there's
sure.
no katas or anything like that. It's
Mm.
more MMA. There's some Muay Thai and obviously Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but there is no katas. And I think katas has it has its place, you know.
Yeah, it has its place. It has its purpose. I gotta ask you this, man, and you might have already done this with them. Part of the appeal and the magic, obviously, with these, our love of the original Kickboxer, for example, because we watched that when we were younger, we were kids.
Hmm.
So, we're going to be biased, and it was a magical time in our life. And watching like the newer one when we're older is not ever going to have the same impact. Though I generally don't think it's nearly as good, but it's not going to have the same impact even if it were. I got to ask you this, man. So, with your son, you got to just, you know, play the original Kickboxer, which I'm sure you've already done for him. Play the new one, and without putting your input in, just say, "Hey, like, which one do you think is actually better and why?" And see what he says, like fresh young eyes on both of
Yeah,
them.
that's a good idea. He has seen Kickboxer many times. The new one, he watched it one time, but
Mhm.
only one time. It hasn't been recently. I only fast forward the sex scene
Okay.
on the new one.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but that's a good idea. I'm gonna do that now that he's 8 now, so maybe he can tell me, which one he likes better. That's a good idea.
And have him
I'm
like
gonna do that.
articulate why. We
Yes,
need
yeah.
this young, fresh, you know, comments on it.
Comments, yeah. Oh, and the reason I was telling you about how he ended up going to I think he didn't want to take the classes because in my mind, and this actually my wife's opinions too. We think that because he was watching No Retreat, No Surrender, and this kid getting beat up at the dojo, we think that maybe that's why he didn't even want to go to begin with. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that he was probably scared, dude. Like,
That was probably his first impression of what the dojo was gonna be like.
yeah, and my first experience with the martial arts actually goes back to when I was 6, and my mom basically forced my brother and I to do judo, and there were much bigger kids,
Uh,
and like I didn't like it because I just felt like I'm wrestling these bigger kids, and it wasn't that fun, you know. So yeah, I had butterflies in my stomach going because a lot of these kids were like 10 or older, and I'm like 6. I'm just like, what the hell's going on? It's like they're just wrestling me, man, and they're quite bigger. They have an
uh,
advantage, quite a good advantage.
yeah, with that way, yeah. That's funny that they force you, but they're not like they force you to go. But now you are like, thank you for making me
Oh
go.
yeah, yeah,
You
sure.
know.
I mean, it's always nice. Like you got to introduce and almost force your kids into something in a way. It's got to
Hmm.
be like in a way. There's a fine line, right? And then ideally they take it up and they'll thank you like, oh, I'm glad you got me into martial arts at such a young age. Hopefully, or if it's not for them, I mean, martial arts isn't for everybody. Like I think it is because I love it, but that doesn't mean like maybe that kid just wants to play chess, and then like let him play chess. I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll be great at chess. But you got to introduce them to all these things, and hopefully they take a liking to them. But if not, then you just got to respect what they do actually like. Like that's why I stuck with martial arts forever because I
uh,
generally fell in love with it. So I just stuck with it for like, geez, 28 years now. Yeah, I
uh,
mean, I started at 6, but then that's not because I wanted to do it. I never got into it. It wasn't
uh,
until I was more like 13 where I'm like, I really got into it, right? Because it was my choice. But I kind of wish I stuck with judo since I was 6, to be honest. But it
uh,
just wasn't my thing at that time.
yeah, yeah. I hope Yeah, you're right. I mean, hopefully, he will love it. I think he's having fun. He likes it. He likes to go,
Sure.
but I want him to keep going. Otherwise, I'm gonna ask him to change his name. but,
Yeah,
but
he's gonna fill that name, man.
all right, let's see. Somebody's here. Did you see that? Hey guys, I hope you both are doing well. Hey Mike, that's Mike from the UK. Dude, we're doing well. Thank you for
Yeah, we're
watching,
doing
bro.
good, man.
And yeah, Viking Samurai. So I know time is flying, so we haven't started
Oh,
to
let's get
talk.
into the main topic, right?
I know,
The
dude.
the, the one main question.
This thing, the time flies, dude.
It does.
I told you before, you and I can talk Van Damme for hours, dude. Like, uh, so, um, so yeah, so I asked you to tell me or to tell us about your favorite Van Damme movie. I don't know which one it is, and you don't know mine either. And I
Mm,
suspect which one is yours, and you told me you suspect which one is mine. But like I was telling you, it's difficult to pick just one.
yeah, yeah, it is.
So I'm gonna let you start, but I'm gonna try to guess. And I got two in mind
Hmm.
that is perhaps your favorite. and I'm gonna go. Well, actually, yeah, I got two. I got Bloodsport and I got Lionheart. And I'm gonna my pick or my guess that
Mhm.
your favorite Van Damme movie is Bloodsport. I could be right. I could be wrong.
You know, I it's always like a tug of war. I always go back and forth
It's,
between those two. Where's my copy? I had a copy. Okay. I always go back and forth between those two, man, because it's such a hard decision. But ultimately, I do go with Lionheart for a couple of different
uh-huh,
reasons. So, yeah, you can't go wrong with either one. And both of them were written by Sheldon Lettich. They were both written by the same guy, funny
uh-huh,
enough. Sheldon Lettich obviously went on to direct this one
uh-huh.
as well. But the reason I go with more with Lionheart is look, the Frank Dukes character is very nice and honorable and obviously amazing at martial arts in the film. But the reason I go with Lionheart is I love his motivation for fighting. It's not about him. It's not about glory. It's not about like, oh, I want to be the greatest in the world. You know, it's like when people have or movie characters, even when they kind of have that selfish motivation and agenda, it's like it's hard for the audience to really back them as much. But now when he's fighting for his dead brother's family because they're
Hmm.
basically, you know, broke and left with a bunch of medical bills, and it's like,
Yeah.
look, he's putting his life at risk just to help this family, and she's giving him all this shit. She's
Oh,
like,
that
you know,
sister-in-law.
basically just like, oh, get out of here, you're a piece of crap, etc. But it's
Yeah.
like this is such a likable character, and he's doing the right thing and fighting for all the right reasons, man. So you can't help but not root for him. And then
Yeah.
obviously, character aside, it's just a fun adventure. I mean, he's like in the French Foreign Legion. He has to escape
Yeah.
North Africa. He ends up in New York. He meets his manager. You know, it's like it's a great bromance. The Joshua character is amazing. It's like you
Yeah.
like this guy. You know, he's funny, right?
He's
And
yeah.
they
He's
they
fun.
generally they develop like a real friendship. Joshua actually cares about him. Like by the end of the film, he actually cares about him. At first, he's just using him. You know, this guy can make me some money. You know, like whatever. Like you know, he doesn't give a shit about him.
To pay for
But
his burger.
they
He wants
generally
to
have
pay
a
his
real
burger.
friendship that you feel and you can connect with, right?
Yeah.
And then you got to go with like the score, the editing, just the cinematography, just everything about that film is so amazing. But I'll be honest, one reason why it's my favorite, and this is more of a personal issue. Like the thing is, Lionheart is a lot of people's favorites for different reasons. Number one, it's just a good movie, right?
Yeah.
But for me specifically, this is the one that, again, heavily in the martial arts training. There were much bigger kids, bullies at school. And to go before I would go to the bus stop at school, I would always watch the beginning of when he goes out to fight Attila. They have that cool ass rock song. He's like just zoned out, even though he's got a broken rib, he's all messed up. He's just like zoned out, a cool ass walk to the final
Yeah.
fight. And that would pump me up going to the bus stop, knowing that I might face my real life Attila. So I needed that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was only like maybe, I don't know, 6 months, a year into my Taekwondo training, but
Uh-huh.
this would help give me the confidence where a lot of it comes down to attitude, man. And if you have
Yeah.
that right attitude and you pump yourself up, people ain't going to mess with you. And that's one reason why the martial arts do help people. It's not like you don't train them just so you could beat somebody up. The whole point is to try to avoid the fight, not in a cowardly way, but
Mhm.
because you build that confidence and people can sense that, right? You're not the prey anymore. If anything, you're a predator and they're going to like, yeah, maybe I'll mess with that kid. So
Yeah.
anyway, that had a lot. It did so much in my life, man. You know, and again, seeing the smaller Van Damme beat the Attila guy, like that put
Yeah.
that in my head. Like, oh, I'm a smaller guy. I could beat these big kids at school too if I had to, you know?
Dude,
So
that's a
yeah,
cool.
there's several reasons, man.
That's a pretty cool story, dude. Like
Yeah.
many of us who watch your channel, we didn't know that.
It's I mean, that's why that one's so personal to me, man, because I would
Uh,
literally watch it every morning before school, going to the bus stop, just to kind of put me in that, like, you know, that's
in the
my
mo
walkout, right? And
yeah,
if I have to face one of these guys, like you know, I might get my butt kicked, but I got the confidence, man, and they're probably not going to mess with me because that radiates off. It's like, oh, maybe I don't want to mess with this guy. He knows something, or at least thinks he does, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's one of the very few movies that I got to see in the theater of Van
Oh,
Damme.
wow,
Yeah,
nice.
that was one of them. Um, yeah, that character of Joshua, like he's using him like at the beginning. Remember, like he wants him to pay for his burger, and he's eating the burger.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, "You're gonna get that, right?" or something like that. That's a hilarious guy. And
Yeah. He adds
no,
so much to the movie, man, because another movie that they did very similar, and in my opinion, it's Michael Jai White's best movie. He did Blood and Bone, which is
oh yeah,
very
yeah,
similar to Lionheart. But here's the thing. They had a manager character in that film who I thought, and I'm not the only one that thinks this. Most people tell me this too. That character is so damn annoying, and he takes the movie down. Like the movie would be better without that manager character, right? Whereas Joshua adds so much to Lionheart. So everything
yeah.
that Blood and Bones got going for it, the manager character kind of like makes it worse. But whereas Joshua in this just makes it that much better. So huge difference between those two films.
I remember that manager. He was an was he Korean or Chinese? Younger
He
guy.
was Asian. I think he
Yeah,
was Chinese or something. His name was Pinball. And originally
pinball.
Michael Jai White wanted Joe Rogan to play that character, but Joe Rogan, for whatever reason,
Oh,
didn't
you know
want
that.
to.
Uh
And I
huh.
think Joe Rogan could have made it a lot better because he's pretty funny. He could have brought a cool comedic,
Yeah,
non-annoying element to it, in my opinion. That movie would have been a lot better. But instead we got, whatever actor to
yeah.
play the pinball character.
That
No
pinball
offense
guy.
if he ever sees this, but honestly, that was pretty damn annoying in that movie.
He's that pinball guy. He says something when he introduced him. He introduces him as Bones, or what was his name?
Something Bone, right? Because the movie's Blood and Bone. So I forget Michael J. White's name in the film.
Yeah, because I remember he says like, because he's like, what's your name? And he says Bones or whatever, and he's like, and this is Bones because that's how his mom called him or something like that, like something funny like that. He says, I remember that. I need to rewatch that movie,
You'll
but
see what I'm talking about, man.
yeah.
Where like that character will annoy you, though.
You know what? And I never saw the relation between, yeah, Lion's Heart and Blood and Bones.
Mhm.
He has about the same similarities. Like now that you
Oh yeah,
pointed out, now that you pointed
Mhm.
out, I never it never clicked to me. You're right.
Yeah.
Bone, yeah, and yeah, I own that one. I think I have a DVD for that one, which I don't mind. I like that movie.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a
I
good one. Like I said, that's my favorite Michael Jai White movie.
mhm,
That one actually, there's a lot more good than bad. I just bring out one specific thing because it's what I felt Lionheart did so well, but that movie did so bad at, and it was that the manager character. But the
mhm,
other elements of the film are fine, and they have some fun fight scenes and other stuff. But here's the thing with Blood and Bone also, and it's almost like the character, right? Like Michael Jai White in a lot of his films just kind of plays an exaggerated version of himself in real life, in my
mhm,
opinion, which is
yeah,
kind of cool, but he comes across too much like a comic book character. So it's harder to like gain sympathy and resonate with them. Whereas with Lionheart, you're just like, oh, how could you not love this guy? He's got like, you really fear for him. Like with Michael Jai White and Blood and Bone, you're just like, of course this guy's going to smoke everybody in these fights. But with Van Damme and Lionheart, it's like, look, there's a real element of danger. He's a smaller guy. He's getting beat up. He's got a broken rib. Like, I really hope this guy makes it through, man. So that's why
yeah,
you're more involved with that story, as opposed to if he was just a superhero type guy and you no, he's gonna wipe the floor with the tilde, no problem. You know?
yeah. Another character that I remember, he's in the movie like for a few, just one scene, and the doctor who diagnosed like the broken ribs, he's like, you should take karate or you should take martial arts or
Yeah,
something.
that's
Karate
such a
class.
funny line. That's such a good line.
And he's like a cholo guy. He's like a cholo, like he's a
Yeah,
Mexican guy.
yeah. Just like
I
little
feel,
elements like that just add a lot to a film,
yeah.
right? Like
Hmm.
they really do, man.
No, no, yeah, that's a good, that's definitely, I will have Lionheart definitely in the top five. Like
Oh,
that's
you
that's
have to,
one of
man. You
his
have
that's
to,
one of his
yeah.
business. And I really love the physique that he has for that movie. And there's a glare here, but I have that I have the poster right here. But it
Mhm.
says, how Lionheart has different names. It's Wrong Bed, Absent Without Living, right?
Mhm.
And Lionheart. I don't know what other names.
Leon, and then Full Contact.
Full Contact. Oh yeah. So
I
I
think that's
have,
it.
because look at this. The one I love, that
Well,
physique right
you
there.
got a nice room. Okay, you got the wrong bet one right next to Rocky
Yeah.
4. That's freaking
Oh,
awesome,
yeah.
dude.
But I love that physique that he has, like in that movie. I mean, he's always in shape.
Mhm.
But like, I don't know, is the pose? I don't know. Like, this is one of my favorite posters of
Yeah,
him.
he
And
looks really good, man. And I
yeah,
think is Wrong Bet. I think that's the one they did in Germany. I think they actually took that picture there, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh-huh.
on the railroad tracks, right?
Because there's another picture of he's doing the split on the railroad. Another, I've seen them, but I don't have it.
Actually, I think they did that in France. Now that I think
Uh-huh.
about it, yeah,
And
yeah. I remember the picture when he's doing the splits on the railroad track. Sure, that's cool too.
yeah, and I love that physique that he has in that movie. He's like, I don't know, I like that pose that he has.
Hmm.
And I was laughing the other day. Well, I told you when I sent you that text message, like when you were interviewing Scott Atkins, and you guys, like, he had it all. I mean, he had Van Damme had the physique and had um, the skills for the martial arts, and then had the looks. You know.
And even that accent worked back in the day. Like
Uh-huh.
just every little thing worked in his favor because, for example, in Belgium, depending on what part of the country you're from, maybe you speak French, maybe you speak, I think, Dutch or even Flemish. He happens to speak French with that cool accent, and people love that
Mm-hmm.
accent. There's other accents that'll actually have the opposite effect.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to like Gary Daniels and Scott Atkins, but the English accent is, at least in America, we kind of find it more of a turnoff. Whereas a French accent's cool. I mean, maybe
Mm-hmm.
not so much now, but in the 80s and 90s, it was so cool. And obviously women loved it, right?
Yeah.
So even like just the fact that he ended up in the part of Belgium where he spoke French and had the French accent, that totally worked in his favor, man. Like everything just worked in his favor. He had everything at the right time.
Yeah, because I mean, like his story. I mean, I would love a biopic, dude. Like his story of an immigrant coming here in the States in the '80s, with almost no money. I think he sold the gym that he owned, right? He sold
Yeah,
it.
California Jim. I think he sold it. Yeah.
Yeah, he sold it. He moved here, I think, after having his first wife in Belgium, like
Mhm.
ex-wife, and then he shows up in another country with a different language, different culture, no money, and then he becomes a movie star.
We gotta give credit to Michelle Kesey because they
Hmm.
came together
Oh,
and
they
he
came
was like
together.
the big
Yeah,
cheerleader saying, "Stick with it. You got this. You're gonna do it. You're gonna make it." And that, like, people told me he was just the support. He was the rock. Because anybody, like, before you make it, or even people after they make it, sometimes like that self doubt will come in. I mean, Stallone had that perfectly portrayed in film, like Rocky 3, for example, right? Like, even though he's champion of the world, like, people like start questioning themselves, right? But and I that Michelle Kesey interview that he did recently, he was even talking like Van Damme would even question himself. But it's like you need that person to just say, "Hey, man, you got this." Get
yeah,
that confidence in your head. So again, that's how Lionheart, watching that scene when he's walking to that tent to fight Attila, that motivated me and gave me the confidence. That's just my personal reason why it's so special to me. But just as a whole, even without that connection, it's such a well done film.
it is. Yeah, and definitely, like I said, it's in my top five. And but yeah, came here, and then he was, doing all these side jobs. I think he was delivering food. He was a
Limo
bouncer,
driver, laying carpet. I think he worked in a
massage,
gym.
massage. He would do massages too, right? He said he was
Yeah,
like
and
a.
then he was like a bouncer at Chuck
Mhm.
Norris's restaurant of all places.
All right. And
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
and so somebody asked him if when he was given a massage, if he has some, guys wanting him to do other things. He never went for it. He said he didn't go for it, but he got all this. I mean, he got the
I'm
look.
sure that,
He
yeah,
got the
he's
looks,
gotten solicited for that. Sure, people going for the massage, wanting something else, man.
But it's funny because somebody asked him that in an interview. I forgot who it was, but no, I mean, and then he ended up, being successful, and then obviously the drugs happened, but now he overcame drugs, and he's still, in the business.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming out with 2 movies now. We're excited to see him, so he's still a draw, no doubt, man. But I got to ask you, and I have a guess. Like, so your favorite Van Damme movie? If I had to guess, well, obviously we know it's not Lionheart because you said that's top 5, so it's not number 1. I'm
Well,
pretty damn
I
sure
would put him in the top
top 5.
in
Yeah,
the yeah.
I'm pretty sure yours is Hard Target.
It is.
Yeah, of
It
course.
is. But it's difficult not to pick Bloodsport because I love Bloodsport, dude.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's difficult not to pick Kickboxer because
Hmm.
Kickboxer was as I remember, it was the very first movie of Van Damme that I saw, that I
Oh,
watched.
okay.
It was Kickboxer. Even though Kickboxer came after Bloodsport,
Hmm.
I was introduced to Van Damme because of a Kickboxer, and then shortly after I watched Bloodsport. And obviously, like I said, Lionheart or Wrong Bed or a Wall or whatever you want to call it. That one I got to watch it in theaters, which it was pretty cool. And Street Fighter was another movie of Van Damme that I got to see in theaters.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Yeah. We were all excited watching that one in the theater.
Oh yeah, and Hard Target was the last one that I got to see in theaters. I mean, at least back in that day, back in the
Hmm.
'90s. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I could go back and forth between Bloodsport and Hard Target, but Hard Target, what was the the deal breaker, so to speak, is the character of Chance Boudreaux.
Okay.
I like the character of Chance Boudreaux. I like the fact that he well, he's a former Marine, if I remember. He's a
Hmm.
former Marine, and he's struggling financially, but he's like a good guy. He's a good guy. I mean, he's a hard worker. He he does different types of job on different days just to go by.
Yeah.
He
Sure.
has barely money to pay for that coffee and whatever he's eating at the cafe at the beginning of the movie. The
Hmm.
cream, whatever they eat in New Orleans. I forgot that typical.
Yeah. Was it gumbo or
The
something?
gumbo,
Or
yeah. Hey,
yeah.
Chance, how's
Sure.
the gumbo? A tragedy.
Such a cool introduction to the character. And
Mhm.
he senses things, right? He knows like those guys are eyeing that girl because she's got all that
Yeah,
cash in her purse. And just the way he sees the reflection in that
and at the
glass
door.
door and the way the
Yeah,
music is, it's like, dude, that is like literally one of the coolest movies on the planet, man. And John Woo, his style is insane, man. Like
that's
that,
another
yeah,
reason.
but
Yeah,
go ahead.
of John Woo.
You tell
But
us more reasons why it's so great.
no, but I mean, I agree with you. Like the first introduction of him is on his back, and that beautiful mullet that he's the only one who can pull it off.
Yeah, that's true, man.
Nobody else
You can pull the
can.
mullet off.
That's the first thing you see. You see his back and the mullet with the trench coat, and then you show you see his earring, the ear
Mhm.
loop, right? And then you see his eyes when he saw the gumbo, and then you say a tragedy. You see his mouth only in the lips, dude. All these things. I'm like,
Yeah, so
and
cool.
I'm straight, dude. I'm telling you, and I'm straight, and I'm noticing all these things. So
It's just one of those things where it's like, you can have a man crush on a guy, like any straight hetero guy, like you have a man crush on people, because like these are guys that are just like, wow, this guy's so cool. Like, I want to be
yeah,
more like this guy because he's such a badass, right? And Van Damme portrayed a lot of those characters, and obviously Stallone, and I mean that's why we lift weights and do martial arts because like we could be a little closer to like these guys or at least the characters we've seen in the movies. It's like
hmm
that's something to aspire to. It's like, what a badass. So
yeah,
why wouldn't you have a man crush on him?
and he's and like he's a good guy. For instance, like, and we know he's broke. He's
Mhm,
struggling for money. He wants to go get a job, but the license has been expired or whatever, right? And and then Natasha shows up, and he's like, "Hey, somebody at the cafe told me that you probably were gonna be here. Would you like to work for me? I'll pay you $100 a day." And he's like, "Doing what?" And she's like, "Does it really matter for $100 a day?" And he's like, "It does.
mhm.
Actually, it does." So I like his moral comp. I mean, like he doesn't want to do
Yeah,
anything
exactly.
illegal,
He's not
you
gonna do
know.
anything for money. I mean, he's not gonna whore himself out for $100 a day.
And back in the '90s, I mean, I wasn't here, but I'm sure $100 a day was a significant amount, right? I
Oh,
would
it's
I
a
would think,
lot compared to yeah,
right?
like with inflation now, that's like $1,000.
Yeah. So I'm like, you have this guy who needs money and he's a hard worker, and somebody's gonna pay him $100 a day, and he still feels like, okay, I'll do it, but I want to know first, what do I gotta do? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I like the guy. I like his character, and I like the way he portrays that character. And he's like I said, obviously he loves his country because he was a Marine, and he grew up, I guess, with his uncle, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
the. I mean,
Yeah, Wilford
and
Brimley, yeah.
and I don't know, and so to me, that's one of the reasons why I like Hard Target because Chance Woodrow, and that's why my younger son is called Chance because of him,
Yeah, of
and also
course. That's why
because
I figured Hard Target was your number one. You
his
would not
mama, his
name your youngest son after that character otherwise. The other cool thing about Hard Target, so it's like he's not even like trying to profit off of her. Like he could have asked her for more money when he agrees to help. He just needs enough where he could kind of go
ah
back on his shipping charter adventure thingies, right? Where he could make
yeah
an honest living. So he's not like trying to take advantage of her in any way.
yeah, and now that you said that, because he says he goes back, he's like, okay, I'll do it. Can you pay me $100 and something like the exact
The exact
exact
amount,
amount
exactly.
that he's gonna pay
Hmm.
for the license or whatever, like whatever the guy from the union was gonna charge him.
Yeah.
The exact same amount. Yeah, and that's another point. Thank you. Yeah, like he's not taking advantage of that. So I mean, he's a good guy. He's not a jerk.
E-
He's not taking advantage of anything.
Exactly, dude. And that's the thing that we have in common for the reasons why we picked our movies. Because the Leon character in Lionheart and then
Hmm.
Chance Boudreaux for Hard Target. So it all comes down to character because the thing is, unless you care and get invested with that character, you're not going to give a crap about what happens to him in the movie. And then you start losing interest in the movie. So it's all about character always. And that's one complaint I'll have with a lot of films and even a lot of the characters that because I mentioned this before on the channel, like Michael Jai White or Scott Adkins would play, they don't have that character. That's why, in my opinion, they didn't really blow up. Because when you
Hmm.
talk about Sylvester Stallone, you talk about Rambo, you talk about Rocky, you talk about these characters, and then you fall in love with the actor and the guy himself because he portrayed
Yeah.
that. So kind of like, you kind of see him, oh, that's Rambo, that's Rocky, and then you automatically like him. But
Yeah.
again, the characters that Stallone played, or not Stallone, but yeah, Stallone and of course Van Damme, like with Chance Boudreaux and then Leon and Lionheart, it's like we like Van Damme way more because he played these characters. We fell in love with the characters.
Yeah.
It's gonna rub off, and we're automatically gonna like the guy that played those characters just as a result.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of those movies seem people nowadays, they just think about those action movies from the 80s and 90s as just being just loud and explosions. No, there is a lot to explore. Like you can actually pick and dissect, like things like that, like in the characters. It's not just like being macho, like
Mhm.
uh like for instance, in the movie Predator. I mean, some people are like some of the younger guys nowadays, they were like, oh, that's just a macho movie, that's just an explosion, that just you have to turn your brain off and to watch it. I'm like, no, dude. I mean, there's a lot of character development. Dillon has character development. He starts the movie one way, and then he ends up in a different way in another place. He ends up in actually better because he goes back to the old Dillon. Like now he cares, like to the point that, hey, I'll go and get your friend. Just hold that chopper for me or whatever. Like.
Exactly, dude. And that's one thing. It sounds like we're on the same page where it bugs me when people say, "Oh, it's just a stupid action movie," or you could turn your brain off. It's like, look, there's a lot more going on than people realize, man. And that's why these stick with us. There's a whole myth structure of storytelling, and there's deeper elements, man. It's not just a guy with a machine gun killing people. It's like if it was that, we wouldn't remember it because then it'd just be like a video game and we don't care and the character means nothing. It's like, with what you mentioned about Predator, it's like, well, that's why it sticks. I mean, yeah, there's a cool ass invisible alien and other stuff, but
Mhm.
it always goes back to character, man.
Yeah, and that's why I don't know. I appreciate those movies. Like, well, I would say I love those movies more than I appreciate them and love them.
Yeah, sure.
And and another thing about obviously you mentioned it, John Woo. I like his style, and it's funny how back then Van Damme has such a huge influence that he brought John Woo to the States for that
Hmm.
movie. So it's
Yeah.
because of him that John Woo that John Woo
That's a
ended
big
up
part
here.
of it, man. And it all ties back into the world Sheldon talks about in
Hmm.
his book because, Sam Raimi was like a backup director. I think he was a
I read.
producer. on Hard Target, but the studio was like, well, this is John Woo's first U.S. movie. We're a little
And the
scared.
language.
Yeah,
Mhm.
in the language thing, it's like, well, let's get Sam Raimi take over if he has to, which he didn't. But yeah, there was actually a guy specifically that Sheldon mentioned. It was another guy's initial idea for getting John Woo, and then I
Mhm.
think that idea got in Van Damme's head, and Van Damme was already a big fan of John Woo because of that stylistic, films
Slow
that he did, like
mos.
The Killers and all that. And then,
Mhm.
but yeah, you got to give him a lot of credit for saying, yeah, John Woo, let's do a movie, and we'll do like your first U.S. movie together. And Van Damme has a big enough name where it's like, hey, if he wants something, the studios are like, okay, you're making us money. People love your movies. Sure, if you want to work with this guy, why not? Right?
Yeah, and then that scene when we see Chance in action for the first time, outside of the cafe.
Mm-hmm.
The,
It's shot like a Western with the cameras like under in between his legs. It's almost like a
yeah,
showdown going to take place in some Western town.
and
I mean,
and that shot when you just see Chance and he opens his the coat and you see his leg before he does the kick.
it's almost like a Western. Instead of having a pistol, he
Yeah,
doesn't need it, dude. His leg's a freaking weapon. Like, that's so cool, man.
it's, it's stuff like that. I'm like, dude, I call it the leg of justice when he opens his friend,
But
and then
again, it's
he goes
totally
like
like a Western film, man.
he
Because
goes two
it's
guys in
like
the
that's
face.
what you do when you warn someone, like, you guys, I got a gun, like, you guys better, back down, like, straighten up, right? But with Van Damme, it's like, dude, I got this leg right here. You guys better,
Yeah.
you know.
Dude, I love that part. And then he says, what says, why don't you make yourself a favor, boy? And then he's like, Chance is like, I think the favor is gonna be done for you. So why don't you take your pig stick and your boyfriend and find a bus to catch?
It's so cool, man.
I love
And
that
like,
quote, dude.
dude, like watching that movie. Okay, so the Natasha character is like a hot girl, obviously,
Mhm,
right? A
mhm.
damsel in distress. Another reason why these movies like resonate with us, what guy wouldn't want to be the hero to this hot girl? It's like, dude, wouldn't you just that's a fantasy. It's like, I'm gonna kick all these dudes' asses and this girl's gonna be very impressed with me. Like, who the hell wouldn't want to be that guy, right? I mean, come on, man. That's just a childhood and even like an adult
Yeah.
fantasy. It's like, I'm gonna be the hero, and it's gonna be so cool.
And somehow seems like she has money too.
Another thing about Hard Target that makes it so amazing is Lance Henriksen and Arnold
Oh
Vosloo.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's so amazing, man. Universal loved them so much they wanted to do a movie with just those two guys. That almost
Rando,
happened, actually.
Rando, Rando. Next time I come, I'll get me a steak. Yeah, you're right, dude. And yeah, Henriksen. Yeah, my son knows remembers Henry. Is it Henry? Yeah, Henry. Right? Henry. No, what's his name? Last name?
Mr. Fouchot.
Mr. Fouchot. But what's his real name? Is Henriksen.
I
But
forget, man.
yeah, well, my son knows him as Bishop from Aliens.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. That was a
Hen-
crazy scene, right? Doesn't the alien like you don't even know he's like the android until he like gets ripped in half and all this milk goes all over the place, right?
Yeah, actually, I'll show you this very quick.
Oh, there you go. You got his top half. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Mr. Fouchon. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like his character. I mean, there's not a lot of development, but he has presence. Presence, like
Oh, such a strong screen presence, man.
he, he can kill you just like this with a big one bullet. With which it implies that he has perfect aim, right? Because he's
Yeah,
just like.
yeah.
And no, dude, yeah, that movie, like the villains, has presence, dude. And I also, this is one of the movies where Van Damme, he just goes savage, just shooting. I guess it's because of John Woo. I mean,
Mhm.
and there isn't. I don't have it. I want to buy it, but first I need to buy one of those free region Blu-ray players because the American version of Hard Target deleted like 13 minutes or something.
Yeah, it's a lot more violent, man. The other cut.
The one in the UK, I think if I buy it from the UK, it's complete.
Hmm.
That's what I
I
heard.
think that one is, yeah, sure. But yeah, that is such a crazy, amazing film. And then hey, let me to wrap this up, let me get your honest opinion, man. I, you watched Hard Target too, right? What, like, honestly, what do you think of that one? Because again, we just talked about how great one was. What
Yeah.
do you honestly think about the sequel?
Uh, do I own it? I don't know if I own it. I don't know. I might. I don't know. I've seen it one time,
Mhm.
and
One is plenty.
yeah, no, dude, it didn't. It didn't work for me. I was excited because Scott Adkins is in it, and
For sure. That's
isn't
why I
Mark
watched it.
isn't Marcos Arori in it too?
No.
He's in another one. He's in another one in Thailand too. Okay, no, because I'm getting confused. No, yo, but yeah, Hard Target too. I saw that one. No, it didn't. It didn't work for me. It was shot. It wasn't in Thailand too. Were they in Thailand?
Yeah, they shot it in
Yeah,
Thailand. I think just in 3 weeks, you know?
and because I watched the interview when and I think Scott Adkins in the interview, he's aware, right? He's aware that it wasn't working.
I
The
did the
movie.
I made a whole video with me, you know, talking to him about it, and he know
Yeah,
he
yeah, yeah,
knows I'm not a
yeah,
fan of it. Like,
yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I wish I was. Trust me, man. Like, I wanted to be because the
No,
way
no.
I explained it was like, look, you know, Scott Atkins is cool, right? Like, he's an amazing martial artist. You know, he's in hits and misses, a lot
Hmm.
of misses, but you know, he's got some good movies too. But Hard Target 2 was just that one where I was like, okay, this is a big franchise. It's probably going to be really cool. And, you know, the trailer actually doesn't even look that bad. So
Hmm.
my expectations were actually pretty high. And then the final product was like, man, I haven't really been more disappointed with any film in my life, only because my expectations, because of the original one, and we know what Scott Atkins is actually capable of. And then you're just like, boy, what they do to that thing, man?
Yeah, and I watched that interview because you had it like in different videos with Scott
Mhm.
Atkins. But it's my impression that Scott Atkins knows, he's aware that that movie wasn't working
And he
like
is
he wanted.
also very aware, and he wanted to preface the whole thing with talking about how great the original was. So automatically, the bar is just set so high. Like, people love the original one for, I mean, it's your like favorite Van Damme movie for a good
Hmm.
reason. You know, at least in probably, I would think most people's top 5, if not top 3. So the bar is so high, you know, and to try to live up to that is one thing, but then to just, you know, even the setting, like the jungle in Thailand, that's boring. Like New Orleans downtown, that's a setting, man. Like a good setting is like a character
Hmm.
in itself. That is such a cool ass setting.
The
But then
blue.
when you're going to the jungle in Thailand, it's like that's boring, man. And we know you're doing that, not him, but basically the production's doing it because it's a cheap movie, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they
and
wouldn't shoot it there otherwise.
was it like a studio interference too? Like, didn't Scott had another ideas to do, and the studio
He
didn't
had
want?
no say in the script, like, so from what I garnered from the interview is
Yeah.
basically he knew it wasn't that great of a script, and who knows how much his ideas could have helped. They definitely wouldn't have hurt it, in my opinion. They might have helped it a lot, I don't know, but he kinda knew it wasn't, gonna be that great just based on the script, and
Yeah.
then, you know, but, like, can you blame the guy? Like, if they're gonna offer you more money, it's just, like, at a certain point, you're gonna say yes, man. Like, it's like, why turn that down? I mean, this could be a fun experience. You know, you got the shot
Yeah.
and shoot in Thailand for 3 weeks, just hang out there. Obviously, it's hard work, and I'm sure they had very long days to shoot. But would you turn down X amount of dollars for 3 weeks of work? Like, I wouldn't, even though, like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it'd be
No.
hard to, right?
Yeah, and you would think like because being in Thailand was gonna work just like it worked for kickboxer, but it didn't, you know. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
I mean, who
sadly,
knows, man? If they ever do a part 3, they better give it a better budget and a cooler setting
yeah,
and really revive it because it was beyond disappointing, but I think they could salvage it, man. In fact, why not put Van Damme and Scott Atkins in part 3, right? That'll get a
yeah.
lot of interest.
And I would like, so many directors, but I would like. He has worked already with Isaac Florentine. Both of them have worked with him.
Mhm.
But if he gets to work with Shannon Lettish,
Well, Scott Adkins and Sean Lettich
yeah,
need to work together, and they're
yeah.
talking. They just
Oh
got
yeah,
to
I
find the
remember.
right project.
Hmm.
They just got to find the right project, man. And when they do, I'm pretty sure it'll be a very well developed character, and hopefully one of those characters the audience can fall in love with, like Lionheart or like Chance Boudreaux, because that's the kind of thing that anybody as an actor would need. It's like, dude, if you have that character that people really generally fall in love with and they feel like a real character, then I mean, your star is just going to rise, man. It's always about the character.
Yeah, and hopefully that happens because I think that would be great. Have
Yeah.
a great collaboration and making a great movie again.
Yeah, that
And
would be amazing, man.
and like I told you, Viking Samurai. I mean, I could talk here 4, 5, 6 hours with you, dude. I'm sure I could talk
Yeah, yeah,
with
the
you a
time
lot,
does
but
fly. There's so much to cover.
but
We only covered one Van Damme movie a piece, but yeah,
but
I do got to run, man. I do got to run
yeah,
here.
no, yeah, absolutely. We gotta wrap it up, but thank you for thank you for being here, and guys watching either live or after the fact, just drop down any comments you may have about the movie, or if you have a favorite Van Damme movie, let us know down in the comments. And thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna put a link down in the description of the video below. I'm gonna put a link to Viking Samurai's channel, so go check it out and
Yeah,
subscribe.
definitely check it
Again,
out.
Viking Samurai, again, thank you, and again, congrats on the 80,000 subscribers milestone, bro. Congrats,
Thanks,
seriously.
man. Like I'm so excited for that plaque, the 100,000 plaque. It's going to be
Oh,
all nice. I
coming
gotta have
soon.
a nice little spot for it. So it's coming, man. Sooner or later, it's coming.
When you get it, dude, when you get it, do an unboxing video, dude.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, and I'll have to thank everybody. Like honestly, without anybody watching, the channel would be nothing. The plaque would never exist. So I'm very grateful for anybody who watches, subscribes, likes the videos, comments. I mean, I call it a brotherhood for a reason, man. Like we have
Hmm.
this stuff in common, and we're passionate about it. So
Yeah. So thank you guys, and like and subscribe, and we're gonna see you soon, guys. Talk to you later.